Hi, I'm John Longstreet, and welcome to another edition of PRLA Short Takes. I have with me today a PRLA board member, who's also a National Restaurant Association board member, and a terrific confidant and supporter of mine, and someone who helps me through my job every day almost. Mike Axiotis, who's the president and CEO of Lehigh Valley Restaurant Group, the largest franchisee of Red Robin restaurants in the nation, right here in Pennsylvania. All Mike's restaurants are here in our state. Mike, so great to have you with us today. Thanks for taking the time to join me on PRLA Short Takes.
John, thank you for having me. It's quite a pleasure to be here.
Mike, you and I talk a lot about PRLA issues, industry issues, state issues, and quite often we could probably talk all day on one of these. I'd like to make this a short take, because that's what this is called, about a subject that's really important right now that you seem to have mastered. We now in Pennsylvania have all counties in the yellow phase. As of tomorrow, all restaurants will be able to serve dinner outdoors in the yellow phase, and all of the green counties, of which there'll be about 50 tomorrow, can begin indoor dining again or have already started indoor dining. Some of your restaurants have been open for indoor dining already, and you seem to have taken the approach that we're going to be very positive about this. We're going to make the most of it, and we're going to figure out a way to be successful in the green phase at 50% occupancy with other standards, even though I've heard some restaurateurs say, I can't make it at 50%. So tell me about how your mindset on getting to this point, and just a high level, some of the things you've done differently to make it successful for Lehigh Valley Restaurant Group, your restaurants, both for outdoor dining in yellow and indoor dining for green.
Thanks for teeing that up. That's an excellent question. I would like to just backtrack a bit though, and even go beyond yellow, and let's even just talk about red. I've heard a lot of what you said from numerous colleagues, operators, and I think that when somebody is down, you have to help pick them back up. And I've had my own personal moments of being down, and I've had others pick me up. I think first and foremost, it starts with a positive mindset and a can-do attitude. It also relies on teamwork and having a really strong team around you that rallies around your purpose. And our purpose at Lehigh Valley Restaurant Group has always been to win. We're a winning team. We don't ever give up. And we all are all about our people as well. So it started very early on in the red phase for us, where we lost 90% of our revenue overnight, and we had to rely just on takeout. Now, we were fortunate to have a to-go operation in place, albeit it wasn't a very robust one, but we definitely had the tools and the infrastructure in place, and we just needed to believe in it and leverage it. So it started there, where even after the first week, the sales numbers were not very impressive. And we all looked at each other and said, you know what, it's better than zero. And how can we build on that? How can we grow those sales? And for the last 10 or so weeks, that's what we have done. And we leverage the power of our general managers in our restaurants to think outside the box, to bring creative ideas, to be innovative, and to leverage their autonomy to think outside the box. There have definitely been a lot of learnings along the way, and everyone rallied around each other and really fed off of each other. And every day and every shift, as we saw those sales slowly grow week over week, day over day, shift over shift, that was inspiring and motivational for everyone to say, well, let's keep doing that and let's get more. We took that same approach when we heard about the yellow phase and being able to see outside. Out of our 21 locations, only half have an outdoor patio. However, again, the power of the GM and the autonomy, a lot of GMs came to us with ideas of, well, can I just take my tables and chairs from my dining room that aren't being utilized, and can we throw them outside on the sidewalk, or can we put them in the lawn, or can we pitch a tent and put a tent up in our parking lot and create our own outdoor spaces for those of us that don't have a patio? And the answer is always yes. How can you make that happen, and when can you get it done? And we have a yesterday mindset. We want it done by yesterday. So there's always that sense of urgency, and there's always that pride that everyone takes to figure out a way to excel and just get it done. Yes, it always begins with the leader setting that tone and that pace, but it's always important to have people that you surround yourself with that share the same ideas and the same values to win. We've now taken that same approach in the green phase. We have one restaurant that went green about 10 days ago up in Snyder County, Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. That restaurant team has taken that same mindset and that same approach. And we've been able to beat prior year sales in the double-digit range, day over day. For the last 10 days straight, it's been that way.
That's incredible, Mike. I might point out, I got a chance to visit there the first weekend, and you're also doing it while following all of the guidelines. It's one thing to say you're doing it, but you're doing it while following all the guidelines. And as you'll, I'm sure, comment, making the guests happy.
Absolutely. I think that's very important. And that's always been important to us, is to always play by the rules, follow the rules, do it the right way. Health and safety has always been paramount at Red Robin, and ever more today in this environment. It's job number one. We have on duty sometimes at a minimum one team member, at a maximum sometimes 2 to 3 team members that are dedicated. We call them the sanitization squad. They have special T-shirts so they stand out. However, it's everyone's job on the shift to take health and safety as number one. We have a 3-step process for sanitization. First and foremost, the busser. When the busser comes by to clean and reset a table after a guest leaves, they clean and reset the table and then sanitize with proper chemicals. Then we have the sanitization squad that comes by for a second trip, hits it a second time. And then the third step is when the host or hostess seats the guest, they're sanitizing one more time visibly, so the guest can actually see that their table is clean and sanitized and comfortable and ready for the guest to be sat there. That's just one small element of steps and measures that we're taking. We're following the Pennsylvania Promise, which we've adopted. We also have our Red Robin brand standards, which as a brand, our franchisor has done a phenomenal job giving us the tools to be successful with various seating layouts with all of our different prototypes that we have. They have 25, 50, 75, and 100% capacities for whatever, municipalities and whatever regulations there are throughout the country. And then I would also encourage you to do your own homework and look at your seating layout and try to get creative. Just some ideas to share. We don't have guests waiting in our lobbies. We have them waiting outside now that the weather is nice, or they can wait in their car. And we've leveraged our lobby that used to be a waiting area for guests, and we've turned that into a portion of our dining room now and made it very comfortable and accommodating. And it almost looks like it was meant to be that way from day one. So that's another way to increase capacity. We also have physical barriers now that were recently approved as a standard for guidelines. So if 6 feet doesn't work in your physical facility, you could put up a physical barrier to help maximize your seating capacity. I think that there are definitely a lot of ways to figure out how to maximize your sales. If you're just looking at it from a one-dimensional point of view, where it's traditional dine-in, and now I only have 50% of my dining room, yes, that could be very problematic. But there are other revenue streams now that you can leverage to help offset the loss of sales by only being able to seat 50% of your capacity. That's takeout. Takeout is number one. Number 2 is leveraging technology with online ordering. Number 3 is trying to leverage third-party delivery services, such as Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Postmates. So if you layer on all of these different revenue streams, you can claw your way back to at least getting to 100% of your revenue, let alone trying to beat your revenue from last year. I would say that even if you can get to 80% of your normal revenue in this environment is a big win.
Mike, what's also interesting, those are great ideas and great suggestions. What's interesting that you and I talked about offline is that I've been in the restaurant business most of my life, as you have been, and forever we've wanted to get people coming to eat in our restaurants in off-peak times. We've tried early bird specials, we've tried mid-afternoon specials, we've tried late night specials, and now it seems like from what you've said, the guests are doing that on their own because they're trying to find less busy times of day to come to the restaurant. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. It's an interesting phenomenon. Again, we have just a few data points right now, but what we're seeing is a steady flow all day long. The dinner traffic is where most of the trade is coming in at, but we're seeing a steady flow throughout the day, and it's an operator's dream come true because, before when we were oversaturated and people were going about their normal daily lives and routines, you would have that 1 peak hour at lunch and possibly 2 peak hours at dinner time. And, there's only so many seats that you have in your restaurant and you're trying to, focus on table turns. Now you have the opportunity to just have a nice steady flow throughout the entire day. There aren't any real peaks and valleys, and it's great. I would also say the other thing that's helping us out with executing those hours is that we have an abridged menu now. We trimmed our menu down when we started doing our curbside only business, and we've kept that same menu now for dine-in. I don't know what the long-term plan is, but at least in the short term, it's working out very well. And we really aren't receiving many complaints that, I used to come in and I was able to get my favorite mushroom burger, or I was able to get, the finest line. If we have the ingredients, we'll make it for the guests, but they're generally sticking with the menu options that we're offering currently.
What's also cool about this is people are so eager to get back out to eat in a restaurant like your restaurant that they're a lot more tolerant of menu items that may have been their favorites than they would have been last year if you tried to take them off. So it could be a great opportunity for restaurants that way. So Mike, it seems like forever since this crisis started, and as you said, it's been kind of an emotional roller coaster. I'd have to say that 6 weeks ago, we were talking about all the restaurants that aren't going to make it to the other side of this. And you and your team at Red Robin at Lehigh Valley Restaurant Group, with that can-do attitude, said, we're going to make the best of this. We're going to figure out a way to make this work. And every time I've talked with you, there's been another new idea in place. And it's an example of what having a can-do attitude can do to make sure that you will get to the other side. And I just hope that those out there that haven't quite figured that out yet will grasp onto that from hearing you and the inspiration that you brought to your team and to this industry, so that all of the restaurants can get through this.
I agree. I couldn't agree more with that, John. And I appreciate you recognizing that and you inviting me here to talk about our story. I encourage everyone to try to find their inspiration somehow, some way, whether it's through a friend, a colleague, through religion, through reading, through listening to a podcast, through watching, video vignettes of other people's success stories. And one of the things that I've learned early on in my career is that failure is a stepping stone to success. So one of the things that you can't fear is failing. Failure, generally speaking, as a human nature, has been viewed as taboo or very bad or something to be embarrassed about. And early on, I used to view that way as well. But now I'm not afraid to fail. As a matter of fact, I look forward to failing at times so that I can learn from those experiences. and not only from your own, but you can also learn from other people's failures as well. For people that are very confident and feel like they want to share their story, you can learn from that as well. So somehow, some way, we need to find inspiration out there so that we can keep moving along and getting through this crisis.
Well, Mike, you've been an inspiration to me on many evenings when we've talked about what's going on and how we're going to keep moving forward. And I really appreciate your leadership, not just of the Pennsylvania Restaurant Association and the National Restaurant Association, but of the industry here in Pennsylvania. I think people have learned a lot from you. They look up to you, and you're just tireless in your efforts to help others out. So thank you, Mike, and thanks for being a guest today on PRLA Short Takes.
It's my pleasure, John. Thanks for having me.
And that's it for another edition of PRLA Short Takes. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.